What if I relate to a level that's lower on the scale and I don't see the purpose of moving up to higher stages? Yes, all of these stages are actually true. And if you identify those as the fundamental truth of reality, you're simply doing what somebody else has done over and over again. There's nothing wrong with that. And that's the amazing, beautiful fact about this model is you can be red meme. That's how many people have been all throughout history. That's how every child will go through. There's nothing wrong with being at a stage of development, any single one of them. The only way there would be something wrong is from the perspective of an altitude. So the first tier tends to see a problem with being at an altitude. The point of the second tier is to accept that everyone is at an altitude and work with what you've got. If you tend to like some altitudes more than others, like maybe you just hate red, maybe you just hate amber, maybe you relate to one thing or another, this is probably referring to some sort of axe you have to grind in terms of your own developmental process. Like maybe you went to Catholic school and they like hit you and stuff, and so you hate amber. Sure, it's any one of these altitudes can bully you and kind of build some sort of chip on your shoulder about it. Hopefully, the teal meme, the second tier, is not bullying anybody, but I'll do my best. I'm kind of a wussy to begin with. What level of consciousness is Unthink Me at? What level of consciousness is Ken Wilber at? What level of consciousness are you at? Absolutely. That's what I want to do. That's what I'm up to. First, though, explaining this model as best I can so that everybody gets it, so that I can always refer you back to these tutorials. And you can say, okay, I get altitudes. Let's use them. Let's talk about events. Let's talk about people. Let's talk about ideas. Let's talk about all the things that you can possibly talk about. But let's talk about them with a comprehension of the second tier, which in this case is just coming from a Ken Wilber spot, because that is one that you can use for this purpose. I find it fine and acceptable. I find anything prior to it kind of unfine and unacceptable, because I find us repeating the history of philosophy to one another over and over again. We are then educating ourselves on topics that we don't want to know. What is the bare minimum amount of information that we need in order to interface with one another in the intellectual world of the present day on the internet? That is the integral model of Ken Wilber. This is my point. This is what this is. This is how we interface with one another. Using this model, it is very normal and healthy to start asking yourself, what level of consciousness am I at? What level of consciousness are you at? What level of consciousness are your parents at? Ken Wilber, what level is he at? You know, the president of your country, or the leader of your world. What level are they at? What are they coming from? What altitude are they expressing? So that's why I am trying to make you familiar with these stages. This video is about the theory itself. The stages are a separate kind of matter, and I deal with them in completely separately, because as you can see, there's already so much to talk about. But once we start getting into these, once we start picking them apart, the point is, where are you coming from at any given moment? Where is this expression coming from? What am I doing right now? Am I expressing one of these altitudes? Sure am. Which is it? Can you figure it out? I can. I know which one it is. I'm cheating because I am me. What are you coming from? Why are you watching this video? What's your point? What are you up to? It's probably one of these altitudes. It probably corresponds to one of these altitudes, because, how could it not? So as part of the overall toolkit that we're bringing to bear in a modern, postmodern, post-postmodern discussion, in a discussion that is up to date with the present comprehension of reality, we should be taking into account what altitude I'm coming from, should be self-aware. What altitude we're communicating through as a medium, we should be self-aware about this. And this is where this can be really helpful. And if you do find yourself interested in this, you're sort of displaying a sort of second-tier consciousness. So when are you Amber Meme? What part of you is Amber Meme? What do you do that matches that description? Are there parts of you that are other memes? Are there parts of you that are coming from the top of it or the bottom of it? Can you make any sort of statements about yourself or your family or the world around you that correspond? This is the point, to start seeing the reality around you in these colors, in that they are constructed of mimetic complexes, that your reality is constructed of repeated renditions of concepts, that this is a second tier perception on reality, and that prior to perceiving that, it is difficult for us to have a conversation with each other because it must begin with the acknowledgement that I'm repeating a particular pattern, you're repeating a particular pattern, the medium in which we're communicating is repeating a particular pattern. I'm not trying to be original. We're repeating patterns. I'm choosing the patterns that I'm repeating. I'm synthesizing. That's a contemporary comprehension of what's happening in actual reality, in actual consciousness.